podcasting's choice. From coast to coast, continent to continent, right here 24/7.
PMR.
Cavebabble. Hello and welcome to Cavebabble episode 254. This week's episode, Cavebabble goes to India. Make your own dance moves, babe. Are you dancing up there? This episode is brought to you by Dancing Superheroes. I think they all should.
I think so too.
I'm convinced they all should now. Hey, everyone.
It definitely makes the movie enjoyable.
Yes, it does. Hi, everyone. I'm Eric.
And I'm Valerie.
Welcome to our podcast. Good Lord, where have we been? We exist. Cavebabble exists. Where have we been, babe?
Where we have been to infinity and beyond.
This is the point where we say, oh, life is so busy. It's so busy we couldn't possibly have recorded in the last 5 months.
No excuses.
No, there are absolutely no excuses. We have been busy, though.
Yeah, but not that busy.
No.
We've just been lately kidnapped by ESO.
Yeah.
But that's a different podcast, not this one.
That's not some terrorist group, by the way. That's Elder Scrolls Online. Those who don't play. We've been doing that, yeah.
Yep.
We've been doing more than that, though. We've been watching movies from different countries, specifically
yes, we
one
have.
country. We have been taken by the Bollywood bug. Taken? Bitten. We've been bitten.
Bit by.
Yeah. See, I can't even speak. I don't even know how to speak on this show anymore.
You've forgotten how to speak.
I don't know how
and
to speak.
I had never even heard of Bollywood. Then all of a sudden you and Amber start talking about it. And the next thing we know, we're watching them. And it's like, what in the world? What in the world is Bollywood?
Well, it's movies from India. They have a huge cinematic machine over there. How many movies do they say they pump out?
At least 800 a year. I mean, they're just as big as Hollywood, if not bigger.
Well, India is rather huge.
Yeah.
A good percentile of all the world's population lives in India, so that's not too surprising.
But they've been around, like I said, since they were doing what we call in our home black and white talkie-talkies, or actually not talkie-talkies, black and white non-talkie-talkies since 1913. So they've been doing this a long time.
Oh yeah, there's let's see here. There is a famous what is the name? It's a film that is all done with cutouts, shadow puppetry. Cutouts, and it's from India. There's a famous anyway. I don't know why that just popped to my head. Probably because we were talking about the history. So I wish I could remember that. I'll put it at computer. What is that movie that I'm trying to think of?
You are thinking of The Adventures of Prince Ahmed, which is a German film from 1926. It has nothing to do with India. How long has it been since you podcasted, Eric?
Thank you, computer, for letting me know. So yeah,
but how did they come about their name? How in the world did they get the name Bollywood?
See, now here's where I get into the part where I think, do they really like it? Do Indians really like us to say Bollywood? I don't know if it's something that they embrace or not.
Or if it's just what the journalists have called it. Because what Americans call it.
Yeah, because we've done that with saying like Japanimation for animation from Japan, and that is not a term that they like, I don't think. over in Japan. So I'm not sure. Anyway, we call it Bollywood because Mumbai used to be called Bombay, and that's where they get the B. And of course, the Hollywood is like Hollywood. So it's like the Bombay version of Hollywood, Bollywood.
And I think that was coined by a journalist in the 1970s. So that was not their, what they referred to their, like we call Hollywood, but that's not what they originally called their production.
Right, which is why I'm wondering if it's a westernized, of course, version of whatever they would call their own cinema.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, yeah, I have been interested in Bollywood or they call it Indiewood. So anything from India, Indiewood films as an overall term for the films that come from there. So maybe I should say that, Indiewood.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe that's probably,
Yeah. I've been interested in Indiewood movies for quite a few years just because I have spent time on Netflix. This is all thanks to Netflix, by the way. Because
Why?
I love foreign films, and I'd like to... there was a time, I should say, when on Netflix you could search for things, at least on the PC interface, on the website interface, you could search by country. And so I would just go into the different countries and scroll through movies and see which ones looked interesting and plop a bunch of those in my queue. That was the time when I was finding all of these movies that were, from India. And some of them, quite frankly, they looked hilarious. And I watched a few clips of them. And I thought, oh my goodness, we've got to do this sometime because they just looked, I wasn't really appreciating it for the talent. I was more appreciating it for the cheese value because it just was like, oh, good Lord, that superhero just looks ridiculous,
It's sort of cheesy according to our superhero movie standards.
Right,
yeah.
Exactly. And so that's how I first was exposed to the superhero part. Now, I had seen in Indian cinema in the past, like, for instance, back in the 90s, there was a movie, I think it was the 90s, called Fire, which was like hit you in the gut type of movie. It was a wife that was in a loveless marriage, and she ends up being attracted to another woman in the neighborhood. And and husband finds out, and there's a whole retribution from the husband. He is within his rights to burn her. And it's a hard movie to watch, man.
So here's the statistics. It says Indian cinema is the world's largest film industry in terms of film production. I'm reading this from Wikipedia. It has an annual output of 1,986 feature films as of 2017. And Bollywood is its largest film producer with 364 Hindi films produced annually as of 2017. That's amazing.
That is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what you get anyway, I shouldn't get all down because most of what we've watched, all of what we watched has been pretty upbeat and fun and everything.
Yeah, we started watching this because there was one particular film that Amber was really, really wanting to watch, and right now we still have not been able to without. So on Netflix, you can actually subscribe to the Bollywood state. What's it called?
Oh no, that's on YouTube. You mean?
Is it YouTube?
Yeah, it's on YouTube that you can.
The film that she wants to watch, but you actually have to get a monthly subscription.
Yeah, there's an Indian film subscription. It's a service that's just all Indian movies, and it's like $10 a month or something like that you pay for it.
It's an on-demand service called Eros Now.
And it's on there.
So the name of the film that Amber's been wanting to watch is called what?
Malhari. Malhari. It's a famous, I should say, not famous. It's a popular video, has been for several years now, on YouTube of a dance from this movie, Malhari. And it's like almost a 4-minute segment of this dance, and it's all, the main guy is just, he's amazing, actually.
It's amazing. Yeah, they've got to be in such good shape to do these. And the choreography, I mean, they will do these dance numbers with 100 or more
dancers,
and amazing.
And it's a historical epic one, and so they're all in these these old warriors costumes and dancing this huge. There's a circle, and they're pounding on the dirt, and the dust is rising in this tent. And oh yeah, if you've not seen Mulhari, look for Mulhari full video song, and you can watch that dance. Anyway, that would get anyone excited to watch an Indian movie, and that dance also is a big part. I should say dance in general is a big part in Bollywood or Indiewood films.
Yeah.
Every single one we've watched so far has had essentially a music video portion where they all dance and sing. And and sometimes the heroes, the hero and the love interest, whomever is the hero, and or the town, or all of the fighters or whatever, they just break into dance and song at certain points in the movie.
Right. And it's in that, I have to say I look forward to those.
Oh yeah, it's the highlight of the film every single time. But what brought to you by dancing superheroes, I said that because even the superhero films that we've watched, they break into
have a dance
section in them, which the first time you see it, if you're not expecting it, which I think everybody who wants to check out Indian cinema realizes they do this, but if you're not expecting it, it can be quite jarring, when they do it. But they are so cool, and the choreography is great, and and the music is awesome, and yeah, it's the highlight of the movie. And I think all the Marvel movies should have a dance sequence in them, I think.
And the colors just pop in these.
Yeah,
they're so
gorgeous.
colorful.
And I'm sure, since we're, Americans watching these films, I wonder if the ones that we get over here, like Netflix, the stuff that comes to Netflix that we are watching, I wonder if these are really the ones that Indian cinema goers are all, are thinking, oh yeah, that's a great representation of our cinema. Or if they're saying, oh, good Lord, we were over that 4 years ago.
Well, it would probably be, I know as I was searching for information on this, I went to we have Entertainment Weekly or whatever, they have a version of an entertainment newsletter. Now, I didn't keep it open, but you can see what their ratings are. And I really didn't pay attention to it, so apologize to our audience as to what they rated as their favorite movies compared to what but I do have up a list of what is considered, now this is on IMDb again, it's so not an Indian based, but it's a list of top 50 best Bollywood movies based on true stories. So there again, it's
based on true stories?
Based on true stories. So that's different than what we've been watching, because the movies listed on here look like they are very different from what we've been watching.
Oh, I'm sure they are, because we're getting the
because we're doing superhero, not true stories.
But we also watched, like, Bahubali was those two films. That was historical epic. That's way back when. So I mean, he still does superhero-y things, but it's
now,
not
according
like
to this site ThoughtCo, they say that when Bollywood, that is what in their early years their production companies mainly did films that were either mythological or historical in nature, and then they spread out to like action films. But I would still say, well, at least the ones we've been watching have been mythological, historical
or superhero.
yeah. Well, I guess, but they're superheroes. Are they superheroes? Well, maybe not. I was thinking they were based on their myths.
Sometimes they are. I mean, I know, like, Bahubali is based on, right? I believe. But yeah, I'm not sure. It's like Hollywood. I mean, there are all kinds of different genres, and we've stayed within a certain range so far. We've not watched a full-on drama. yet. It's all been, a little more lighthearted than that.
I guess, jumping to modern time, I guess the modern Bollywood is referred to as the masala films.
Okay.
And I guess,
You're making me
apologize
hungry.
if I botch the director's name, is Manmohan Desai. Is that how you say it?
I have no idea.
Desai is his last name. And I apologize for butchering the name. He's one of the most successful Bollywood directors of the 1970s. He is considered to be the father of the masala films. And he says that his whole approach to Bollywood films is he wants people to forget their misery. He wants to take them into a dream world where there is no poverty, no beggars, where fate is kind and God is busy looking after his flock. So that's kind of his philosophy of his, and yeah, he definitely does that. Well, I don't know if he's the one, we'll be going through some of the ones that we have watched, whether he's been the director of any of them.
I don't think so.
The philosophy is there in the films that we have watched.
Another thing you'll notice about Indian cinema is they aren't too concerned about the length of their films.
Yeah, that's very true. We think our films are long.
Even the most lighthearted movie out there is still over 2 hours long. They'll be like 2.5, easily 2.5, sometimes 3 hours long. But for the most part, I mean, they don't drag very much. At least
No,
the
I
ones
wouldn't say that.
But they do have distinct parts. Sometimes you will be introduced to an entirely new plot and a new style even sometimes. It'll go from an action movie to slapsticky comedy for about an hour to something, and then will end more serious than you're expecting it to. It's like it changes tone dramatically sometimes.
Yeah, very much so.
And the movie's long enough that it's like you're watching 3 episodes. You're watching a comedy, you're watching an action film, and you're watching a drama all in one film. Now, I don't want to paint them all with that brush, but that's kind of how they've played out for us.
Yeah, they play out like that, and they also play out with, okay, we jump right into the middle of the main story, and then we go back and do a little history, and then you end with, okay, now we're going to tell you the full story type thing, too.
Well, I guess since I've just mentioned it a couple times, we will be covering some of these movies in their own episodes, just because they are great fun. And I think you would get a kick out of it, and that will also give everyone out there who listens to the show a chance to check it out. If you have Netflix, you can watch all of the ones we're going to talk about. And so you could watch them ahead of time and join with us. But anyway, the one I was going to talk about was Bahubali. It's Bahubali if you're searching on Netflix. It has an extra A actually in the title, but that doesn't show up on Netflix. Anyway, that film jumps back in time. I think the second one is almost all back in time.
Yeah, that's what I remember.
There's Bahubali, the beginning, which is from 2015, and then the follow-up was from 2017 called The Conclusion. Yeah, there you go. The beginning and the well-named Bahubali. Anyway. And the second one, it's almost entirely in the past. It covers his dad. Yeah, they do that. Yeah, they jump around sometimes. But again, this could be just because we are choosing this style to watch. It could just be the style of the movie. I mean, we haven't watched just a straight-on, full-on comedy. Well, no, that's not true. I think the Fly one was probably... I don't know if we are seeing usual examples of it or outliers, so I really don't know.
Well, it looks like a lot of their films do just like what our Hollywood films do. They try to give their opinion of what's going on right now in the world. Their editorials, their platforms. So it looks like they use their films the same as our Hollywood does for their political platforms, social platforms.
Yeah, very much so. Having said that, it's not super heavy-handed.
No, not like ours can.
Well, yeah, at least not that we've watched. We've not watched that kind yet.
That's true.
The themes are just very obvious and very strong. So it's like you'll have the characters. The main character will just be, very, very good and true to their morals and everything like that. Women, how would you say the treatment of women in these films, babe? I mean, they're strong, I guess, kind of, sort of, but in the end, the guy kind of saves the day, doesn't he? At least what we've watched so far.
Yeah, the women are very, I think of still a supportive role, supporting the male actor.
Yeah.
So far, all the ones we have watched have had, the male, main character.
But it also is the style of film that we have been watching. I'm sure
Very
that
true.
there are all kinds of Indian films with very strong female leads. I don't know. We've not watched. We haven't watched one of those yet, so we're
Right.
going
We've
to
just
have to
begun
do-
this journey.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, come on, the country is one that has had a prime minister that's woman, so I don't think this is an
Right.
issue over there. So.
Right. Exactly. I think they definitely have strong women in the business world. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So I don't know traditionally if it's an Indian thing or if it's just the style of movie that we've been watching, but it's just very different. Very different. Let's see here. I could just give them a taste of the types of movies that we have watched. Okay,
It's a good idea.
I've already mentioned that we watched Bahubali, which is a historical epic
Historical? Isn't there a flying bird ship in the second movie?
about kings and kingdoms and all kinds of things like that. And it's lots of action. And again, it has stars that I'm positive that in India, these people are wildly popular. They have to be, right? And
I would think so.
I'm sure in all of these movies, we don't necessarily know who they are over here, but over there, I'm sure everybody knows who they are. Let's see. So that was 2015 and 2017, respectively, the two parts of that. The one that we just watched last night is Krish. It's Krrish. Krish. And that's from 2006. And that's a straight up superhero movie. Country bumpkin turns into superhero film. And what did you think of that one, babe?
I've enjoyed all of these.
I have. It is pretty funny. And it's one of those that, again, it changes tone about 3 times. That one doesn't really get too deep. And it's more melodramatic than it is truly dramatic. But it goes some wild places, which we found out the reason why, because there is a prequel that covers all of that space stuff that you saw in there. And it came out first. So we actually saw it in the how should I say it? There is not a Krish 2. It goes straight to 3. The first one is considered that alien movie that you saw in there.
And then the one we saw last night was considered the second one, huh?
Correct. Yeah, correct. So that will mean nothing to you out there unless you watch Krish. So go ahead and do that. And then I think maybe I don't know. I don't know which is my favorite. Krish is not my favorite. I enjoyed it, but it's not my favorite. Maki. I really liked Maki. Makkhi, also known as Iga, which means fly. And that movie I got a kick out of. That's from 2012. And I had it in our queue for years. It just sat in the queue and we never watched it because I just came across it in Netflix, like I said, in those searches I've done. And I couldn't help but stick this in there because the whole idea of the movie is a guy is reincarnated as a fly after he is killed by, of course, a bad guy in the movie. He is killed by this guy and he comes back as a fly to get his revenge. And yes, it is as crazy as it sounds.
And this film was one that even parts of it, Caius, our grandson, he's just about 2.5, just found hilarious. There were parts that he would just be, laughing till tears are rolling down. He just found them hilarious. That one.
Because as a fly, he is pestering the guy who killed him, and those are the scenes that Caius liked. As the guy
just
is
loved
going crazy and trying to kill the fly, and oh my God, it is hilarious. There's even a fly weightlifting scene.
Yeah. Yeah, you guys, yeah,
Yeah, we won't cover it.
need to watch that, but we will definitely cover it in more detail.
Yes, we've got to do an episode on that one.
Yeah, we will.
Another one we watched was a different type of superhero movie called A Flying Jot. And Jot is Jatt, so A Flying Jot. And that was from 2016. And it's a straight up superhero film with a guy who comes from a small village that has a sacred tree that's on the coastline. And there's a big bad corporation who wants to, that is, poisoning the waters and everything. It's your stereotypical gotta save the rec center from the big bad developer type of thing.
Yeah.
Very much
Save
that way.
the environment.
But there's so much more to it, though. That's the thing.
Oh, yeah,
all
very
of
much.
these movies are far much more than what we can show because they do switch tones and add a whole new plot partway through the movie so that it keeps it fresh for 2.5 hours or more, And I actually got a real kick out of that one. So we're just now starting to really dip our toes into it. We are doing India nights, having Kevin and Amber over, and we're all watching these things together. And
Did you
just getting
know
a kick out of it? No, I didn't.
that Bollywood actually influenced Hollywood?
I believe it.
That in the 2000s, when Bollywood began influencing our musical films. So, for example, Moulin Rouge, that was came out in 2001, was directly inspired by the Bollywood musicals. And putting two and two together, I can see that. I love Moulin Rouge. That's one of my most favorite films. And then it also influenced, Sweeney Todd, Across the Universe, Phantom of the Opera.
So they're just naming musicals.
Well, that were directly, according to the directors and producers, were definitely influenced by Bollywood. Those are ones that they specifically credit to being influenced by Bollywood. So that's interesting.
And for those out there that are just absolutely tuning out because they're like, I do not like musicals, and all Bollywood movies are musicals.
Oh,
no,
and I should say, no.
These films are not musicals.
No, they're not musicals.
They aren't. They all will contain a dance sequence or two in them or more sometimes, and they will sing, but the song is always about the plot. So in that way, it's more like opera in that it kind of tells the story of that part of it.
Right, exactly.
But they aren't musicals, and trust me, these things you're going to want to see because they look amazing. They really do a great job. I mean, some more than others. I'm like anything, but it's just a small portion.
We're not giving it credit. You're absolutely correct. These are not musicals. The dance scene is just a very small portion of the entire film. I mean, like we said, these are 3-hour long films, and the dance portion, they have maybe one or two dance portion in each film that maybe lasts
5 minutes? I don't know.
5 minutes at the most. So out of 3 hours, the dance is not a major portion of it.
Yeah, but they are almost universally, from what we've seen so far, are some of the best parts of the film. So honestly, we look forward to when we know it's been a while since when we think, oh, when are they going to add something in here? And it's not like they just, at the drop of a hat, just start going at it. It's you can kind of tell when it's coming. But honestly, they are just, the production value is so high. The dance moves are so good, and with that, thumping music and everything, you can't help but like it. You just smile at it because they really do a great job, and the colors of the costuming, and it's just gorgeous. So if you don't let it turn you away, in other words, give it a chance.
Exactly, give it a chance.
Yeah, check out one of these ones that I've mentioned so far, and
start out with Bahubali.
Yeah, exactly. If you want less, because there's less of that sort of thing in Bahubali, it's more battle epic.
Yeah, I think that's a good one for someone who's never watched one of these films to start with.
Yeah, I think that's good. One thing you need to keep in mind is that in all of these films that we've watched, there is an element of probably what we would consider camp or at least just kind of a little bit of cheese, in it. And I think that's the same for our films in other countries. I think it's just a cultural type of thing that in some cases the drama, the melodrama is what I should say. They're melodramatic in places where, some of the tears are amped up, the anger is amped up, everything is a little higher, a little more melodramatic in some cases. So you start to enjoy those segments as well, and there will be some fantastic CGI sequences in some of these movies, and then there will be other times where it's like, oh my Lord.
Yeah, they didn't spend much money on that section.
Money on that section. In other words, it's just like American movies. We have the same problem over here.
The difference with them is, and maybe that's part of is because they pump out so many films in a year, the popular actors and actresses sometimes do what I read, up to 10 to 12 movies at the same time.
Good Lord.
So
Seriously?
I know, yeah. And so they will then sometimes take sections, which we haven't noticed, and use those sections in all the films that they're doing at that time.
Oh, okay.
Or they'll use maybe not necessarily pull the clip from one to another, but they'll use the same set. Or
sets. Okay, so not like, okay, here's the dance sequence from Bang Rajan.
Correct. Correct. They won't take out the actual filmed, but they'll use the same sets, the same, cast members, the same support, the same dancers. Interesting. I found that interesting. Another thing we should probably tell our listeners is, at least all the ones we have watched are all subtitled. Of course, they're all, but there's a lot of English too. Interject.
Yeah. Yes, there is what they call Hinglish. It's like Hindi English. It's a combination. They will kind of like if you've watched Firefly or the movie Serenity in Joss Whedon's universe, they intermix Chinese into some of their sentences, like they'll curse in Chinese or they'll do something like that in the middle of a sentence. They'll switch to Chinese. That's exactly what it's like in these films. They'll be speaking whatever the language is. I mean, they have all kinds of different languages that these movies are in.
Right.
But then they will switch into English for part of a sentence. Sometimes an entire monologue will be half in English. And it's very interesting I kind of like catching that in there. To me, it's kind of a cool way to speak. And I wonder, they just must do it over there. That must be just how they speak. I mean, some, of course, not saying everyone does, but it's really kind of cool to hear it. It's a little jarring at first. You're like, oh, wait, that guy's speaking English. You just kind of notice it as suddenly you realize you're not reading the subtitle anymore because he's speaking English.
Yeah. What I also found, if we, especially the Hindi-based films, the cow is sacred. So any portion of the film you'll see it with Bahubali. They will have, like we do, no animals were hurt in the filming of this movie. They do the same with their cows,
and in the case of that movie, it actually puts a little disclaimer up in the corner down or wherever it was at that says CGI sequence. As like the one guy is fighting the bull, he's wrestling with the bull. And they want to make sure that people realize that they're not actually hurting an animal. Now, it's pretty obvious that it was actually good CGI in that segment, but even then, it was obvious it wasn't an actual. But so they put disclaimers like that on it. So, and I can understand why.
Yeah, what I find real interesting is that in the indie cinema. Women were not allowed to be makeup artists for the longest time.
Yeah.
It wasn't until 2014 that a rule was passed that women could finally be makeup artists.
That's interesting.
So that was just only 4 years ago. But up until then, it was only men who could do the makeup.
That's something that I've had to make myself aware of at work because we have a lot of Indian American families that come into our library for different things. And I have had to be more cognizant of things like that, of not touching a shoulder, not to of the women, or doing things like that, because I didn't realize that sort of thing was a thing, and I should have. I should be aware that, you know how it is. It's like if you're getting someone's attention, you touch them, you reach out and touch.
But they find that is like, no, you don't do that. That culture is.
And I don't know if that's an across the board thing. I mean, I'm sure it's like anyone. It changes from person to person, but I think as a general rule, that's not really something you do.
And I wonder if that comes from, these societies that live so many people in a small area. You see that in China, you see that in Japan, where they have a lot of social rules about touching because they do live, so many people and crammed into a small area.
Right. Yeah, right. It's your one way to try to get away from everybody.
Right.
It's just, okay, nobody touch us. No, I don't know. And it could be that, an Indian listener is listening to this and saying, "Oh, come on, Eric."
Yeah, and correct us if we're wrong. So please, yeah. I guess, in Bollywood, their films, we always talk about how much it costs to create a Hollywood film. In Bollywood, they're just as, they say their average, their most expensive production can cost up to what they say 1 billion rupees, which is roughly 20 million US dollars.
I think, when you're starting to count that high in your currency, I think it's time to change your currency. If you're counting things in billions of
rupees. And it's like paying everything in pennies. Well, that's how many pennies.
You know how many pennies that is? No, I understand. Currency with Cavebabble. I know everything about it. That's for sure. No. Oh, that's so funny.
So they, of course, have been starting to, just like they do a lot of overseas sequence shooting. So their crews will go to, historically, they've been going to Australia, Canada, New Zealand, United Kingdom. They come over to the United States. Continental Europe are their main filming places.
Well, there is such a variety of places within India itself. I mean, we're watching, like, for instance, Karish was filmed in northern India, or at least that's where it's supposed to take place. And, you're right up there in the big, tall mountains in that region. So and then you have the lowlands, which are hot and swampy, and they have a little bit of everything, just like the U.S. does. So they're within their own country, they have a lot of different places they could film to get different styles and areas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you got to do that.
One thing I was going to mention is, again, speaking of the actors and actresses that are in these films, to us, they're beautiful faces, and they're famous people. For instance, like in Krish, the one that we just watched, the main woman lead in that, she was Miss World. She was the winner of the Miss World 2000 pageant. So you have, and one that was from A Flying Jot, she also is along those same lines. Her name's Jacqueline Fernandez. She was Miss Sri Lanka in 2006. So they're all gorgeous, of course.
Yeah.
They're all very good looking.
And of course, just like Hollywood, Bollywood has allowed a lot of job opportunities for a variety of people. Like, for example, the Bollywood indie cinema allow the opportunity for many Indian artists to make a living, because at first, or for the longest time, their movie billboards and their posters were all hand painted.
Oh my goodness, really?
The reason being because human labor in India was so much cheaper than the printing and distribution of materials. So it was a lot cheaper for them to do the hand painted.
I bet they look so cool too.
Oh yeah. So what a wonderful venue for, and that's how some of the artists became well known, just through their movie posters and billboards. And
that's cool. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
a neat piece of trivia that I didn't even think of. So that's cool.
Yeah.
So anyway, we would suggest that you go ahead and start your own journey into Indian cinema, and you can join us on future episodes where we will be covering some of these films that we have mentioned in more depth. Because, oh my God, some of them are so hilarious and so good that there is plenty to say about each of them, both good and bad, which is the way I like it. Yeah, I think that's probably good for
A good
for
welcome back.
Yeah, a good welcome back.
Mm-hmm.
I will maybe put a couple songs at the end of this from my new CD. This is the longest it's been since I've put together a CD of music. I will be posting the songs into our feed one at a time, intermixed with episodes probably, so that I have them on Libsyn for people to download, and I can link from my music site, and it'll be a way to store the songs in there individually so that people can download them.
And then this latest album is we are starring your daughter, Courtney, with the cover art.
Yeah, that's right. Cover art by Courtney
She did a
Lyon.
fantastic. I love it.
Name of the album is Metamorphosis. And she did the cover for it. It's
Cover
a combination. It's a combination of dance and or soundtrack style music, and interspersed with like something you would find in a D&D campaign music. It's inspired by our Dungeons and Dragons campaign. So it's kind of half classical, bombastic stuff and mixed with more modern. That's why I called it Metamorphosis. It's like the older style of music is metamorphosing into modern. And that's about it. If you would like to write to us, God, why would you want to do that? It's been 5 months. Come on. Yes, please do
Other than
that.
berating us for, yes, please do berate us for taking 5 months to.
If you are already into Indian cinema, give us some ideas. We would love to hear those. Cavebabble@gmail.com. Or you can head over to cavebabble.com and just see just how long it's been since we've been posting. Or you may join our Facebook group, search for Cavebabble, and ask to join, and we will accept you, promise. We don't even see if you've washed your hair. You can just come in and we'll accept you. You may subscribe to us on iTunes, search for Cavebabble Podcast, and subscribe. And if you like what you hear, please give us a review. That would be very helpful. It would help us get in here more often.
Yeah, if we know what you want to listen to rather than just.
We're back. We have a plan.
But we are Cavebabble. We are babbling.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for all the downloads and listens. And until next week, we're out of here.
Goodbye.
Bye. Cavebabble. My God, do we even remember how to do this?
I don't think so.
Podcasting's choice. From coast to coast, continent to continent, right here 24/7.
The